शुरू करें मैं। नमस्कार। I welcome Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Minister of State Sri Anurag Thakur ji, Secretaries from the Ministry, friends from the media. After the announcement of fiscal stimulus package of rupees 20 lakh crore by the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday, the Finance Minister is going to share the details of the package under Mission Atmanirbhar Bharat. First, the Honorable FM and MOS will brief, then we will take some questions from you. Over to Finance Minister.
Good afternoon. I'm sure all of you will have heard the Honorable Prime Minister speak last night to the nation. He laid out a vision, a comprehensive vision. And that vision was laid out after wide and deep consultation with several sections of our society. And these discussions were held at various levels, with various ministries, and also gradually taken up to the level of the Prime Minister's office, and the Prime Minister himself has been spending considerable time to make sure that the inputs obtained are given due consideration and they form a part of the package that's being given to the country. To build a very self-reliant India. And that's where this whole initiative is called as Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And the word Atmanirbhar India is the one which you will be hearing me say quite often. I know, coming from South India, a lot of people wondered what it actually meant. So for their benefit, I'll just say what it means in the 4 languages, subject of course to perfectionist corrections. Suya Sarbu Bharadam in Tamil, Suya Adharita in Telugu, Suyam Asaritan in Malayalam, and Swayam Avalambita in Kannada. Subject to correction, it may not be the perfect translation, but something to take it closer to what it means. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is what we are talking about. And you heard the Prime Minister clearly say that this is going to be resting on 5 important pillars. 5 important pillars: the economy, infrastructure, technology-driven systems, demography, and demand. So if these are the 5 pillars on which we are trying to build Atmanirbhar Bharat, the focus obviously will be what can be defined as the factors of production in today's language. Factors of production, all of us know that we've been hearing it: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Today, we recast it, say it the same way, but then essentially referring to the very same factors of production, but in this Atmanirbhar Bharat, our focus therefore would be on those factors of production which are land, labor, liquidity, and law. So essentially it addresses issues of ease of doing businesses, ease of doing compliance and regulations being due diligence observed, and so on. And in this, the intention is to build brands. Intention is also to take local brands and build them to a global level. So there is a global value chain integration also as a part of this vision which the Prime Minister has put before us. Certainly when he says Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is not to look inwards and cut India to become an isolationist country. It certainly talks about a confident India which can rest on its strengths and also be able to contribute to the globe, the way in which the Prime Minister rightly pointed out. The production of PPE and masks and also ventilators to an extent has rapidly grown within these 40 days. We have the capability, we have the enterprise to build such capabilities and help the world with it. And therefore India shall continue contributing to the globe. You've also been seeing, I'm moving away from Prime Minister's last night's speech, you've been seeing that the government being led by Prime Minister Modi, even in 2014-19 regime, was a listening, was a sensitive, and also was a responding government. And that is why I list before you the various reform-driven steps which have been successfully taken. It's important for us to recall that now, even as we talk about building a new India, building an India which is going to be Atmanirbhar. If I were to group them into different categories and list out what has been done by this government, even in between 2014 and 19, if you were to talk about the poor, we had the DBT-based reforms, based on which today, as we look at the migrants, look at the poor, look at the lockdown in their lives and the impact it has made in their lives, the DBT enabled us to directly put money into their accounts, and they didn't even have to go to the bank to collect it. The bank mitras were able to come and deliver the money, and therefore that reform based on Jan Dhan accounts, based on Aadhaar, and based on mobile technology has brought a revolution in this country which many countries do recall now, and many of them are not able to do it, although India is able to do it. So for the poor, the DBT, the micro-insurance schemes, PM Awas Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, again something which has made it possible for people to have free cooking gas in the last 3 months. It wouldn't have been possible to reach out to the poor to have their cooking gas given unless the Ujjwala scheme was so successfully implemented. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and Ayushman Bharat. And therefore for the poor, during the last tenure, the several schemes which benefited were all reform driven. If I were to talk about agriculture in the same spirit, PM Fasal Bima Yojana, PM Kisan Yojana, which again has come off handy, that we were able to front load the money to the Kisan during this lockdown. Otherwise it wouldn't have been possible. Creating new fisheries department, Krishi Sinchai Yojana, were all aimed at bringing reform in agriculture. Similarly, talking of business and also trying to bring in better business environment. PSB cleanups happen, public sector banks cleanup, after a heavy load of phone banking resulting in NPAs. Public sector banks recapitalization, FDI liberalization, ease of doing business reforms, which were taken down to the third level of administration governance, IBC reforms, GST reforms, and today because of the GST reforms you're able to see what impact lockdown is having on small and medium businesses. And finally, reforms in other areas, very quickly to recall. National Highway Authority, the TOT plans, the airport privatizations, power sector reforms, which resulted in India becoming a power surplus country from shortages always. 175 gigawatts of solar targets out of 86 gigawatt has already been achieved out of that number. And cleaning up of the coal mine sector. These are all things which I would want to recall here before we talk about what foundation. This is the credential with which the Prime Minister has always been on the side of reform for better living in this country, ease of living in this country.
नमस्कार। कोविड-19 में देश और दुनिया के सामने बहुत सारे संकट खड़े किए और इन चुनौतियों के समय में भी भारत के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय मोदी जी अवसर देखते हैं और कहीं ना कहीं पिछले कल का उनका जो देश के प्रति संबोधन था उसमें स्पष्ट तौर पर दिखता है कि आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने के लिए ये जो संकल्प उन्होंने लिया है, ये जो सोच अपनी देश के सामने रखी है, इसने एक नई ऊर्जा देशवासियों में भर दी है। जहां अपने घरों तक सीमित थे लोग, आज वो आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने के इस संकल्प में जुड़ने जा रहा है और संकट में अवसर देख रहा है। और शायद यही कारण है कि दुनिया के मुकाबले अगर भारत का देखा जाए तो इस लड़ाई में बहुत अच्छे कदम रहे। यहाँ तक कि दुनिया भर के देशों में दवाइयाँ तक पहुँचाने का भी संकट के समय में अगर किसी ने काम किया तो भारत की दवाइयों की कंपनियों ने किया, जिसमें भारत को बहुत प्रशंसा भी मिली है। यही नहीं, सबसे पहले कोविड-19 को चलते मोदी सरकार ने जो पहला कदम उठाया वो प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना के रूप में लेकर आए कि देश के गरीब को भूखा ना रहना पड़े, उसको कोई दुख तकलीफ ना हो। और 1,70,000 करोड़ का ये पैकेज माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने आप सबके सामने रखा था। और यही नहीं, कंप्लायंस की कोई दिक्कत ना हो कि आपको कानूनी तौर पर वैधानिक रूप से कोई जो नियमों का पालन कर रहा है उसमें आप रह ना जाएं, तो उसकी भी छूट 3 महीने का मोरेटोरियम पीरियड आपको दिया गया। फिर आरबीआई के माध्यम से भी घोषणाएं हुई जिसमें लिक्विडिटी का फायदा आप सबको मिला, देश के करोड़ों लोगों को। तो मेरा मानना यह है कि रिफॉर्म्स की जब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी बात करते हैं कि आत्मनिर्भर भारत हमने बनाना है, तो उसके 5 स्तंभ की उन्होंने बात की है, 5 पिलर्स की बात की है, जिसकी विस्तार में उल्लेख माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने किया है। मैं एक बात इसमें और कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो हम इकोनॉमी की बात करते हैं, अर्थव्यवस्था की बात करते हैं, पहला स्तंभ आधारभूत ढांचा हमारा ऐसा हो जो आधुनिक हो। और यही नहीं, हमारे सिस्टम जो है वो 21वीं शताब्दी में हमें विश्वगुरु बना सकें, उस लायक हम बनाएं। वाइब्रेंट डेमोग्राफी की हम बात करते हैं, युवा शक्ति को हम राष्ट्र शक्ति और राष्ट्र निर्माण के रूप में लगाएं और उनका लाभ उठाएं। और डिमांड को कैसे बढ़ाना है और डिमांड सप्लाई चेन का समन्वय कैसे बना रहे और अर्थव्यवस्था आगे और कैसे बढ़े, इसके इस्तेमाल को करने की भी जरूरत है। बोल्ड रिफॉर्म्स का पूरा लेखा जोखा माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने पिछले 6 वर्षों का दिया है। मैं यही कहूंगा, बड़े निर्णय करने के लिए मोदी जी जाने जाते हैं। चाहे वो गुजरात में आए भूकंप के समय वापस कच्छ को खड़े करने की बात हो, या आज के संकट के समय भारत में पीपीई और मास्क के निर्माण की बात हो। और कहीं ना कहीं यही सोच भारत को आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने जा रही है। और इस आत्मनिर्भर भारत जो मूवमेंट है, इसमें हम आप सबको जोड़ने आए हैं। 20 लाख करोड़ का ऐतिहासिक पैकेज माननीय मोदी जी ने पिछले कल घोषणा की है और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें निर्देश दिया है कि प्रतिदिन अलग अलग सेक्टर्स को लेकर आप सबके बीच में आकर इसकी विस्तार में हम लोग जानकारी दें। तो माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी आपको अगली जानकारी देंगे कि आज किस सेक्टर को लेकर हम आप सबके बीच में आए हैं। लेकिन बोल्ड रिफॉर्म्स 6 वर्ष भी होती रही, अब भी होगी, जब तक भारत आत्मनिर्भर नहीं हो जाता, उस दिशा में लगातार काम चलता रहेगा।
So I broadly explained about the reform steps which were taken during the previous 14 to 19 tenure of this government. And after the 2019 elections, the July budget was presented. Post that, immediately, in this very hall, we met several times, over several fortnights, when we had to respond to the call of the hour, the need which was felt by the SMEs and many others. And all this only to underline the fact that you're speaking with a sensitive, a responsive, and a government which believes in consultation. So then after that, the budget of February 2020 was presented, but soon after came Corona. And after the parliament session was concluded, within hours of the announcement of the lockdown, the PM Garib Kalyan package was announced, about which Amos has briefly referred. The numbers are something which are worth recalling here, because we are going to have to build on that. 52,606 crores into DBT account of 41 crore bank account holders, the Jan Dhan account holders. 18,000 crore worth grain and pulse transfers happened, in which 48 lakh metric tons of wheat and rice have been distributed, costing 69 crores, to 69 crore account ration card holders. 71,738 metric tons of pulses have been distributed to 6.25 crore card holders. Aside from this, non-card holders have also been distributed grains. And I mentioned a minute ago about the Ujjwala scheme, which helps distribution of free cylinders. Divyang and old age pensioners have all been also given assistance. So after the lockdown, within a couple of hours, meaning within a day or two, we came with that announcement of the Garib Kalyan package. With that, there was also a compliance and also due diligence related deadline dates which were postponed so that ease of compliance could come in. Beginning today, I come over to speaking about today. Beginning today, for the next few days, I shall be coming with this entire team before you to put out the details of the vision which PM has put forth yesterday. So PM's vision for a self-reliant India, we will come with the details in various tranches beginning today, and we shall not forget in each of the tranches that we are talking about that we do have a responsibility towards the poor of this country, towards the needy of the country, towards the migrant workers of this country, the Divyang and the aged. So the tranches will of course be for all our convenience, suitably bringing grouped items which have some correlation. Alongside, you also had the Reserve Bank of India coming up with a lot of liquidity infusion, about which the data which will be shared with you all will go into greater detail about the quantum that they came up with, the LTROs and the TLTROs. I'm not getting into it so that you'll get the data, but we are not going into it. We also ensured, the Revenue Secretary is here, we also ensured that 18,000 crores of refunds through a special drive were given for all the income taxpayers. Drawback were also given the payments. So the intention being liquidity should be in the hands of the people. For all those who have up to 5 lakhs of refund dues, we cleared it. 14 lakh taxpayers have benefited because of that. So with that said, today the tranche has about 15 different measures, 6 of which pertain to the micro, small and medium enterprises. कुटीर लघु उद्योग के लिए 6 ऐसे कदम हम उठाएंगे 2 relate to the Employees Provident Fund. 2 relate to the NBFCs, Housing Finance Corporations, and the MFIs, microfinance institutions. 1 relates to DISCOMs, 1 relates to contractors, 1 relates to real estate, and 3 are tax measures that we have taken. So I'll get into the detail of today's tranche of announcements. I said there are 6 major steps for the MSMEs. The first one, there is a collateral-free automatic loan for MSMEs which is being provided. This will give facility up to 3 lakh crores. 25 crore outstanding for those MSME units for whom 25 crore is the outstanding loan, or 100 crores whose turnover is, will benefit from this. These loans will have a 4-year tenure, and there will be a moratorium given for 12 months. These are going to be 100% credit guaranteed over as a cover given to banks and NBFCs on principal and interest. So this is going to be available till 31st October 2020. There are no guarantee fees, no fresh collaterals required. So I guess this will benefit 45 lakh units so that they can resume their business activity and also safeguard jobs.
प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना में जहां सबसे पहले कोविड हेल्थ वर्कर्स के लिए 50 लाख रुपए की इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी का प्रावधान किया गया था, वहीं पर 80 करोड़ गरीबों को 5-5 किलो गेहूं या चावल देने का प्रावधान किया गया और पूरे देश भर में पीडीएस के अलावा अतिरिक्त ये 5-5 किलो उनको दिया गया, पिछले महीने भी और इस महीने भी। इसके अलावा ये प्रति व्यक्ति 5-5 किलो था और प्रति परिवार दाल देने का भी काम किया गया 1 किलो। और इसके अलावा जो हमारे वृद्ध, विधवा, दिव्यांग हैं उनको भी जनधन खातों में सीधा पैसे डाले गए, 500-500 रुपये, 1000 रुपये उनको टोटल डाला गया। इसके अलावा जो 20.5 करोड़ जनधन योजना खाता धारक थे, ऐसे 41 करोड़ खातों में भी 52,606 करोड़ रुपया अब तक ट्रांसफ़र कर दिया गया है। 8 करोड़ उज्ज्वला योजना के जो उपभोक्ता हैं उनको मुफ्त में 3 महीने 1-1 सिलेंडर देने की बात हुई थी, जब तक उनको सिलेंडर की आवश्यकता है। उसकी प्रक्रिया भी शुरू हो गई और दे भी दिए गए। यहाँ तक कि जो पीएम किसान के लिए भी 2,000 रुपया ऐसे करोड़ों किसानों के खातों में उसको ट्रांसफ़र कर दिया गया। तो जितनी घोषणाएं उस पीएम गरीब कल्याण योजना के अंतर्गत की गई थी, उन पर सारे कदम भारत सरकार द्वारा उठाए गए और करोड़ों भारतीयों को इसका लाभ माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के माध्यम से मिला है। जहां तक व्यापारी वर्ग की बात है, आम आदमी की बात है, कंप्लायंस का बर्डन उसके ऊपर ना आए, घर से बाहर नहीं जाते थे, तो उसके सामने जो संकट था कि वो कैसे समय सीमा रहते अपनी कंप्लायंस पूरी कर सके, उसमें भी उसको छूट दी गई और उसको भी 3 महीने आगे बढ़ाया गया, जिससे उसको लाभ मिला है। आरबीआई ने भी जो महत्वपूर्ण घोषणाएं की, उससे लाखों करोड़ रुपए की लिक्विडिटी मार्केट में आई है, जिससे पूरे देश को लाभ मिला है और इसकी जानकारी आप सबके सामने पहले भी रखी है। केवल आज एक बार फिर आपके ध्यान में लाने की ज़रूरत पड़ी तो उसको किया है। एक जो मीडिया के माध्यम से हमारी जानकारी हमें मिली और जो वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस और बाकी सब वार्तालाप बाकी लोगों से हुआ, मध्यम, सूक्ष्म, लघु उद्योग, कुटीर उद्योग, घरेलू उद्योग जो है, इन सब के सामने बहुत बड़ी मुसीबत थी कि पैसों की भारी कमी थी। इन सब के लिए क्या किया जाए, ये भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था की रीढ़ है। ये जो हमारा सूक्ष्म, लघु, मध्यम उद्योग है, कुटीर उद्योग है, गृह उद्योग है, इन सब का एक बहुत महत्व है, 12 करोड़ से ज़्यादा लोगों को ये रोजगार देते हैं। तो ऐसे कारोबार और व्यापार करने वाले, विशेष तौर पर एमएसएमई सेक्टर जो है, इसके लिए आज एक बहुत बड़ी घोषणा है कि कोलेटरल फ्री ऑटोमेटिक लोन 3 लाख करोड़ रुपए का मध्यम, सूक्ष्म, लघु, कुटीर और गृह उद्योग को मिलेगा। इसमें किसी को अपनी ओर से कोई गारंटी, कोई कोलेटरल देने की आवश्यकता नहीं है और इसका समय सीमा भी 4 वर्ष की होगी और पहले 12 महीने यानी कि पहला 1 वर्ष उनको प्रिंसिपल रीपेमेंट नहीं करना पड़ेगा, इनके मूलधन का चुकाना नहीं पड़ेगा, मूलधन को नहीं चुकाना पड़ेगा और 12 महीने की इस पर छूट रहेगी और 4 वर्ष के लिए उनको ऋण दिया जाएगा। तो 3 लाख करोड़ रुपए का ये ऋण, ये हमने बगैर किसी गारंटी, बगैर किसी कोलेटरल के भारत के मध्यम, सूक्ष्म, लघु उद्योग, कुटीर और गृह उद्योग के लिए मोदी सरकार ने करके दिया है।
I just move to the next one, which is about a 20,000 crore subordinate debt proposition which we are bringing. If the earlier one, which was just now explained by the MOS, was for standard MSMEs who, because of lockdown, couldn't move forward because they didn't have money, they didn't have cash coming in. So for buying raw materials or paying the wages, if they had a problem, you had that emergency credit line which we spoke about just a minute ago. Now I come to talking about subordinate debt through which we want to infuse about 20,000 crores. These are meant for stressed MSMEs. So if you're providing for the standard, you're now providing for the stressed MSMEs. Now the stressed MSMEs do have a problem of equity. So for them, through a subordinate debt provision, we want to provide about 20,000 crore liquidity. 2 lakh MSMEs are likely to benefit from this. The functioning of the MSMEs which are NPA or are stressed, all of them will be eligible. For this subordinate debt-based scheme, NPAs or stressed MSMEs will all be eligible for this. The government will be providing about a 4,000 crore as its contribution to the MSE, the Credit Guarantee Trust, and they will be then able to provide the partial credit guarantee support to the banks, as a result of which stressed and NPA MSMEs will immediately benefit.
तनाव में जो सूक्ष्म, लघु, मध्यम उद्योग या कुटीर या गृह उद्योग हैं, उनकी इन परिस्थितियों को देखकर गौण कर्ज या अधीनस्थ ऋण के रूप में 20,000 करोड़ रुपए का प्रावधान इन स्ट्रेस्ड एमएसएमईज के लिए किया गया है, ताकि इनकी जो कमी आती थी उस कमी को दूर किया जा सके। और इसमें भी लगभग 2 लाख से ज़्यादा मध्यम, लघु, सूक्ष्म, कुटीर उद्योग को लाभ मिलने वाला है और ये 20,000 करोड़ का गौण ऋण ये तनाव वाली एमएसएमईज को दिया जाएगा।
The next of the MSME linked steps that we are taking, this is the third. There is a fund being created for infusing about 50,000 crore as equity into the MSMEs. This will benefit those MSMEs who have the potential and who are viable. So we spoke about those who are standard, we spoke about those who are NPAs and stressed. Now I'm talking about MSMEs who may be doing viable business and who needs hand-holding because of the situation thanks to the COVID. So this fund with a corpus of 10,000 crores through mother fund and daughter fund framework will be able to provide the growth potential MSMEs greater support, and this we think will help MSMEs to expand their capacities And this will also encourage them eventually to get listed in the markets which they can choose.
जो मध्यम लघु सूक्ष्म उद्योग अच्छा कर रहे हैं, विस्तार करना चाहते हैं, आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, लेकिन उनके आकार को बढ़ाने की या क्षमता को बढ़ाने की सुविधाएं नहीं मिल पाती थी, तो उसके लिए फंड्स ऑफ फंड्स का प्रावधान किया गया है और इस फंड्स ऑफ फंड्स के माध्यम से 50,000 करोड़ की इक्विटी इन्फ्यूजन होगी, ये हम करने जा रहे हैं। इससे इन सभी अच्छा काम करने वाले मध्यम लघु सूक्ष्म उद्योगों को अपना आकार और क्षमता बढ़ाने का अवसर मिलेगा।
The next one is something which all of us have been waiting for a long time, about the definition of MSMEs. I'm sure you heard from several sources that this discussion has been going on. We have now come to a stage where we can happily announce that the definition being changed is being changed in favor of the MSMEs. Because there was always this fear in very successful MSMEs also, that if they outgrow the size of what is defined as an MSME, they lose the benefits that they get as an MSME itself. So outgrowing this definition meant outgrowing and going out of receiving benefits. Therefore, MSMEs preferred to remain within the definition rather than grow. Now what we are coming with is a change in the definition of MSME so that they need not worry about growing in size. They will still be able to get quite a lot of benefits which otherwise, as an MSME, they had got. So now how do we change it? I told you why we are changing the definition. How are the changes being brought about? What exactly is the change which is coming in? The change is that investment limit which defined an MSME is being revised upwards. So you can be a slightly more larger invested company, but you're still going to be considered only as an MSME. And then I'll come to the amounts which is shown in the chart there. But the idea is, even with an increased investment, you'll still be defined only as an MSME. You shall not get out of the benefit which is given to you as an MSME. Second is, additional criteria to define an MSME is being brought in. And that criteria is based on turnover. So that is being brought in newly now. Earlier it was only investment size. Now investment size and or additional turnover size is being brought in. And earlier the distinction which prevailed between manufacturing unit, and therefore their definition was on slightly different account. Service units, their definition was on slightly different criteria. Now that differentiation between manufacturing and service MSME are being removed. Manufacturing MSME or service-based MSME shall all be defined similarly. And then, therefore, the chart that is there before you will tell you what was earlier and what is now. What was earlier defined with an investment of 25 lakh as micro unit will now have investment allowed till 1 crore. So they'll still be called a micro unit even if the investment is up to 1 crore. Now, in that, service investments of 10 lakhs were called as micro earlier. Now, because the distinction is removed, service also will have the benefit of being called a micro unit even if the investment is 1 crore. Over and above it, I did say that in addition to investment as a definitional criteria, we are bringing in the criteria of turnover also. So now your investment can be up to 1 crore and your turnover can be up to 5 crore. You shall be called as micro. This or that. Your investment can be 1 crore and your turnover can be 5 crore. Up to 5 crore, you will be micro enterprise. And so on. So small will be up to 5 crore, manufacturing enterprise. Services was up to 2 crore. Now the definition is changed to 10 crores and 50 crores. investment and turnover, and so on. The table explains it.
सूक्ष्म लघु मध्यम उद्योग में इसकी परिभाषा में कम दहलीज होने के कारण ये लगातार संकट रहता था कि अगर हम इससे बाहर जाएंगे तो हमें जो हमारे बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, लाभ मिलते हैं, उससे हाथ धोना पड़ेगा। और यही कारण था कि हमारे कुटीर सूक्ष्म लघु उद्योग कभी बड़ा बनने का सपना नहीं देखते थे, और सपना देखते भी थे तो ये जो सीमा इसके लिए रखी गई थी, कम दहलीज थी, इसके कारण ये बड़े नहीं हो पाते थे। और कहीं ना कहीं जो आज कंपटीशन है उसमें फिर ये बहुत पीछे रह जाते थे। वर्षों लंबित मांग है, वर्षों से मैं सुनता आ रहा हूं, चौथी बार एमपी बन गया, कब से शुरू हो रही, आज तक वही मांग है। मैं धन्यवादी हूं प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने इस पर यह कदम उठाने के लिए कहा है। और जो पहले क्राइटेरिया था कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट जो है वो 25 लाख से कम इन्वेस्टमेंट की होगी तो माइक्रो में आएगा, और सर्विस एंटरप्राइजेज जो थी वो 10 लाख तक की अगर उसने इन्वेस्टमेंट की होगी तो माइक्रो में आएगा। अब इसमें एक बदलाव किया गया है कि निवेश की लिमिट को तो बढ़ाया गया है, साथ में कारोबार को भी जोड़ा गया कि आपने व्यवसाय या कारोबार कितना उस वर्ष में किया है। तो इसको इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाकर माइक्रो के लिए 25 लाख से बढ़ाकर 1 करोड़ तक की जो इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा वो माइक्रो यूनिट कहलाएगा। और ये मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और सर्विसेज दोनों के लिए एक ही क्राइटेरिया रहेगा, तो सर्विस सेक्टर को भी माइक्रो में आने का लाभ मिला है। तो 1 करोड़ से कम निवेश करने वाले को माइक्रो इंडस्ट्री में जो 5 करोड़ तक का व्यापार कारोबार करेगा उसको माइक्रो कहा जाएगा। स्मॉल वाले के लिए 10 करोड़ तक का निवेश और 50 करोड़ तक का कारोबार करने का प्रावधान, और मीडियम जो है उसमें 20 करोड़ तक का निवेश और 100 करोड़ तक की टर्नओवर। तो आप कल्पना कीजिए कि कल तक जो शायद मीडियम वाले के लिए आता था वो आज आपके स्मॉल वाले के लिए भी उससे बेहतर ऑप्शंस आकर खड़ी हो गई। तो इससे हमारे कुटीर सूक्ष्म लघु मध्यम उद्योग को बहुत बल मिलने वाला है। एक और बैंकों का हाथ पकड़ना, पैसा देना, दूसरी तरफ से डेफिनेशन चेंज करके उनके आकार और क्षमता को बढ़ाने का अवसर देना, ये अपने आप में क्रांतिकारी कदम इस दिशा में लिया गया है।
I move to the fifth step in the MSMEs. I said total 6 measures have been are getting announced today. Of the 6, the fifth one is that for government procurement, tenders up to 200 crores will no longer be on global tender route, meaning global tenders will be disallowed in government procurement for tenders up to 200 crores. Why is this being done? Majority of the MSMEs in India were unable to supply those big mother units, as you may call, big, large companies, who they were serving all the while. Suddenly the conditions became, based on the global tenders, unmatchable by our MSMEs. So they were disqualified from supplying to companies for whom they actually grew as ancillary units. As a result, many of our MSMEs were not anymore able to participate in supplying products to many of these large units. So by bringing this condition now, we are saying for global tenders worth 200 crores or less, particularly for government procurement, they need not be global tenders at all. So this will make MSMEs do their business with a lot more confidence and carry on with it. Self-reliant India will also then be able to serve Make in India, because small units can now be participant in government purchases.
पिछली 2 स्लाइड्स में भी आपने देखा होगा कि कुटीर सूक्ष्म लघु मध्यम उद्योग के लिए जो बड़े कदम उठाए गए हैं, 3 लाख करोड़ के कोलेटरल फ्री और कोई नई गारंटी दिए बिना एक और से ऋण उपलब्ध करवाना, उसके अलावा जो बाकी कदम उठाए गए और उनकी परिभाषा बदलने का काम भी किया गया, तो ये कदम उससे एक और स्तर ऊपर है कि ये सब बदलने के बाद उनको कामकाज जब मिले तो कंपटीशन में कहीं ना कहीं अनफेयरनेस जो होती थी उसमें हमारे लोकल उद्योग वो पीछे रह जाते थे। तो लोकल को बल, लोकल से ग्लोबल तक जाने की बात जो कल तक प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कही, उसी दिशा में एक ये कदम है। लोकल के लिए वोकल भी, लोकल को बल भी, लोकल से ग्लोबल भी। तो ये इसीलिए ग्लोबल टेंडर्स जो हैं ये 200 करोड़ तक से कम वाले जो हैं, इसमें यानी कि 200 करोड़ से कम वाले में ग्लोबल टेंडर्स नहीं होंगे। इसमें हमारे सूक्ष्म, लघु, मध्यम उद्योग को लाभ मिलेगा और कहीं ना कहीं आत्मनिर्भर भारत की जो हम बात करते हैं उस दिशा में कदम ये भी उठाया गया है।
The sixth step towards MSMEs is post-COVID trade fairs, exhibitions are going to be very difficult. So we shall ensure that e-market linkage is provided across the board for all these MSMEs so that they're able to find their market easily in the absence of being able to participate in trade fairs which cannot be held in this environment. Also, very importantly, Government of India and also CPSEs, where there are receivables by MSMEs, we now announce that within the next 45 days, all their receivables will be cleared. The CPSEs and Government of India will honor every MSME receivable within the next 45 days.
इसी तरह से एक बार फिर कुटीर, सूक्ष्म, लघु, मध्यम उद्योग के लिए ये जो चुनौतियां कोविड-19 के समय शुरू हुई कि घरों तक सीमित होना पड़ा और आप कहीं जाकर सामान बेचने में दुविधा आती थी, तो ई मार्केट लिंकेज करने की बात की, क्योंकि ई कॉमर्स का आजकल ज़माना भी आया है, वो भी होगा। और इसके अलावा व्यापार मेलों में कैसे वो इन्वॉल्व हो सके, उनका शामिल होना हो, प्रदर्शनियों में उनकी पार्टिसिपेशन हो सके, इसके लिए कदम उठाए जाएंगे। और जो हमारे सार्वजनिक केंद्र उपक्रम है उसमें जो अगर उनके कोई पेंडिंग पेमेंट्स है, सरकारी है या पीएसयू उसमें है, उनको भी अगले 45 दिनों में बल देकर वापस उनकी पेमेंट हो, ऐसा प्रयास किया जाएगा ताकि जल्द से जल्द उनकी पेमेंट हो, ताकि उनको राहत मिल सके।
I now move to talking about EPF. You were aware during the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package, some measures were extended for the EPF. In that, we had said units which have 100 workers, 90% of whom are earning less than 15,000 rupees, will be able to draw from their EPF from the funds because they needed money in their hands. We have now, and for the 3 months, the payment of EPF also was given relaxation. What I would now like to say before you is a liquidity relief is being given for all EPF establishments. In this, 12% which is paid by the employer and 12% by the employee contribution. We extend the support which Government of India gave for another 3 months. We had given it for March, April, and May up to May 2020. The payments were made into their eligible accounts by Government of India for March, April, and May. Nearly 3.6 lakh establishments benefited from this. Liquidity relief of 2,500 crores to 72.22 lakh employees is now being proposed to be provided by extending this contribution for the next 3 months also. June, July, and August 2020, the EPF contribution will be paid by Government of India, and this shall provide 2,500 crore liquidity support. So what was given earlier for March, April and May is now being extended for another 3 months, which will be June, July and August, and therefore we shall be infusing 2,500 crore liquidity and 72.22 lakh employees will benefit from it.
1,70,000 करोड़ के प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण पैकेज में एक सुविधा दी गई थी कि ईपीएफ जो है, प्रोविडेंट फंड जो है, वो 12% जो कर्मचारी उसका भी और जो नौकरी देने वाला उसका भी 12% भारत सरकार देगी। और ये पहले 3 महीनों के लिए हमने किया था, जिसकी भुगतान कर भी दिया गया पहले 2 महीनों के लिए, और इसको अगले 3 महीने और बढ़ा दिया जाएगा। इसका प्रावधान भी जून, जुलाई और अगस्त के लिए कर दिया गया है। 3,67,000 ऐसी संस्थाओं के 72,22,000 ऐसे कर्मचारियों को लाभ मिलेगा। % हिस्सा भी
Again, which is if you have 100 employees, 90% of whom are drawing less than 15,000, we announced a scheme earlier, which I'm extending for another 3 months. That's what was announced a minute ago. The second one in EPF now is the statutory PF contribution for those who are not covered in the earlier one is being reduced from 12% to 10%. So for the next 3 months, employers need to pay only 10% and not 12% so that they will have some more money in their hands. However, for the central public sector enterprises and for state PSUs, we will continue to pay 12%. So this reduction is not for the government. However, government employees government employer still pays 12%. But employees in these public sector undertakings will be given the advantage of paying only 10%. So a liquidity relief of 6,750 crores for both the employee and employer will be available for the next 3 months.
एक और प्रावधान, क्योंकि आज के समय पैसा कर्मचारी के हाथ में भी कैसे ज़्यादा हो, इसमें भी एक बड़ी राहत देने का प्रयास इसमें किया है कि जो ईपीएफ कंट्रीब्यूशन है, जिनका ईपीएफ का योगदान है, वो ऐसे संस्थानों के लिए और कर्मचारियों के लिए 12% से कम करके 10% अगले 3 महीनों के लिए किया गया है। इससे कर्मचारी भी और संस्थान दोनों को लाभ मिलेगा। लेकिन जो सरकारी हमारी संस्था पीएससीज हैं, इनके लिए 12% ही रहेगा, उसमें बदलाव नहीं किया गया है। मिलेगा, के हाथ में आएगा।
Institutions. It was NBFCs were not able to get enough resources, and particularly some NBFCs which were not very highly rated had particular difficulties in comparison to the liquidity scheme. Under the scheme, investment will be made in both primary and secondary market transactions where investment grade debt papers, this is not infusing equity, this is taking and buying debt papers of NBFCs, housing finance corporations and microfinance institutions, and not high quality debt papers, they can be investment quality also. So this we expect will have an impact on those struggling NBFCs who need money to carry on with business, and these NBFCs are also those who have been funding MSMEs So, in order for these NBFCs to keep their network of MSMEs served, this infusion is absolutely necessary. And these securities with which you're going to buy these debt papers will be fully guaranteed by Government of India. They will be fully guaranteed by Government of India. We hope that this will also bring in a lot of difference for NBFCs who have access to small and micro units, and therefore we want to ease the flow of credit through these NBFCs who have only not so good debt papers in their hands.
गैर बैंकिंग वित्तीय कंपनियां उसके लिए ये नई योजना लेकर आए हैं जिसमें 30,000 करोड़ रुपए का विशेष तौर पर प्रावधान किया जाएगा। स्पेशल लिक्विडिटी स्कीम ये होगी जिससे इनके धन की आपूर्ति भी होगी और इसके माध्यम से जहां एक और हाउसिंग सेक्टर को बल मिलेगा, एमएसएमई सेक्टर को बल मिलेगा, उसका भी लाभ हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था में और नीचे आम आदमी को पहुंचेगा और इसका पूरी तरह से गारंटी भारत की सरकार देगी।
The next facility also for the NBFCs is to give 45,000 crore liquidity infusion through a partial credit guarantee scheme for the NBFCs in particular. This is an existing scheme, but we are expanding its scope. Expanding its scope only because it will now cover borrowings such as primary bond issued, the commercial papers. So all these will constitute the liability side of the balance sheet, but we are getting into that area also. But in this case, as different from the previous one, 20%, the first 20% loss alone will be borne by the guarantor, which is Government of India. The first 20% loss. So in this again, AA rated papers below and also below that will all be included. Even unrated papers will be eligible for investment. This we think will help many of the microfinance institutions, and with this, if money goes into their hands, even based on unrated papers, we guess they will have liquidity to reach out to the MSMEs who may be in the far-flung areas.
जहां पहली 30,000 करोड़ की लिक्विडिटी गारंटी स्कीम लेकर आए थे, एनबीएफसीज के लिए, एचएफसीज और एमएफआईज के लिए, वहीं पर अब आंशिक ऋण गारंटी योजना ये लगभग 45,000 करोड़ रुपए की एनबीएफसीज का इसमें प्रावधान किया गया है। इसमें भारत सरकार गारंटर होगी, जो 20% का नुकसान इसके द्वारा वहन किया जाएगा। और यही नहीं, इसमें AA पेपर और इससे भी नीचे वाले जो हैं उसको भी इसमें पैसा मिल पाएगा, ऋण मिल पाएगा। और इसके अलावा जो अनरेटेड पेपर एलिजिबिलिटी है इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, वो भी इसमें प्रावधान किए गए हैं। अगर इससे भी नई लैंडिंग जो है, यानी कि कर्जा दिया जा सके सूक्ष्म लघु मध्यम उद्योग को और आम नागरिकों को भी मिल सके, उसके लिए इसका प्रावधान किया गया है।
This causing unprecedented cash flow problems. They desperately need help. Otherwise, they are unable to pay the power generating companies. You know, all the states, DISCOMs are in serious crisis. So in order to help them, there is a emergency liquidity injection, which is happening to the extent of 90,000 crores. Now the Power Finance Corporation, REC, the Rural Electrification Corporations, both of them put together will infuse liquidity of 90,000 crores to all the DISCOMs against all the receivables that they have. They're sitting there without getting paid. In turn, they are not able to pay the GENCOs. In turn, the GENCOs are wondering where they will have more money to pay for producing electricity. And at a time when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, at a time when we are also rightly claiming the credit for having made India a surplus power generating country, we've reached a stage where DISCOMs don't have money because they're sitting with receivables. So we are now making a provision, a one-time provision, for PFCs and RECs to infuse that money into the DISCOMs against their receivables, and who in turn, this will be done with the state issuing guarantees. The guarantee, the amount which is being infused on guarantees being given by states. Now, obviously, having received that infusion of money, the DISCOMs will pay the GENCOs. GENCOs in turn will clear their dues and keep the cycle moving. Now, what does this do to the customer? The customer, we want the benefit to be passed on to the customer. We are in fact telling the central public sector generation companies that they shall give rebate to those DISCOMs which shall pass these benefits to the final customer. So we are making it clear to the central public sector generation companies that on receiving the money from the DISCOMs, they should be able to pass it on again back to the consumers. So this is a one-time infusion of liquidity for cash desperate DISCOMs.
बिजली वितरण कंपनियों की आय में जो भारी कमी आई है और लेनदारी जो इनकी कई राज्यों से बढ़ी है, उसके कारण भी ये अभूतपूर्व नकदी प्रवाह की स्थिति इनको देखनी पड़ रही है। इन परिस्थितियों में आम उपभोक्ता को भी नुकसान ना हो, बिजली उत्पादन करने वाले भी और बिजली वितरण करने वाले भी इस अभूतपूर्व समस्या में कहीं उलझकर ना रह जाएं, इसके लिए 90,000 करोड़ रुपए का प्रावधान डिस्कॉम्स के लिए किया गया है, बिजली वितरण कंपनियों के लिए किया गया है। और ये 90,000 करोड़ रुपया जो बिजली वितरण कंपनियों को दिया जाएगा, वो पावर फाइनेंस कॉरपोरेशन और रूरल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन कॉरपोरेशन के माध्यम से दिया जाएगा।
I move to the next, which deals with contractors. All Government of India agencies, such as the railways, road transport, highways, CPW, etc., will now give 6 months extension without any cost to the contractors, so that extension should cover construction work or goods and services contracts that they have with central government agencies. They can take additional 6 months to comply with the contract conditions. I didn't get it.
Up to 6 months.
So the extension is up to 6 months, is what I'm being told. Okay. Covers construction. This shall cover construction work or cover even goods and services contracts. It will also cover completion of works and intermediate milestones that they may have. This will also cover and extend concessional period which is given in PPP contracts. So even the concessional periods will get extended up to 6 months. And in order to facilitate greater liquidity which they can obtain, government agencies will partially release bank guarantees to the extent of the partially completed contracts. So if a particular contract is completed to some extent and not fully, to that some extent, the partial bank guarantee will also be released so that the cash flow will improve.
जहां एक और पहले 200 करोड़ तक के टेंडर्स ग्लोबल नहीं होंगे, एक वो राहत दी गई। अब उसके बाद जो अभी काम हमारे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स कर रहे हैं देश भर में, चाहे वो रेलवेज का हो, सड़कों का हो, हाईवेज का हो, सेंट्रल पब्लिक वर्क्स का हो, अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट्स के हों, क्योंकि कोविड के कारण ये समस्या खड़ी हुई, तब उनको 3 महीने से ज़्यादा 6 महीने तक की राहत इसमें दी जा सकती है एक्सटेंशन के रूप में, ताकि उनको कोई खामियाजा ना भुगतना पड़े। और जो ऑब्लिगेशंस थी उनकी, उसके कारण दिक्कत आ सकती थी, इसलिए प्रावधान किया गया है ताकि मुकदमेबाजी या बाकी सब ना हो और मानसिक रूप से भी ठीक रहे और अच्छा काम करके समय पर पूरा कर सकें। तो 6 महीने तक की इनको राहत दी गई। और यही नहीं, जो पीपीपी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स है उसमें भी जो कंसेशन पीरियड है उसमें भी ये राहत 6 महीने तक की दी जा सकती है, पर मैक्सिमम जो है 6 महीने तक हो सकता है। केस टू केस मैटर करेगा। और जो सिक्योरिटी दी जाती थी पार्शियल, उसको रिलीज किया जा सकता है आंशिक रूप से। मान लीजिए मैं कोई ठेका लिया है, 70% किसी ने काम किया और उसके एवज में उसकी आंशिक रूप से वो बैंक गारंटी को वापस किया जा सकता है ताकि उसके पास और लिक्विडिटी और काम करने के लिए आ सके। एक बहुत बड़ी राहत इस तरह से कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स को भी देश भर में देने का एक प्रावधान किया है। 80% की होगा तो उसके अनुसार, 60% की होगा तो उसके अनुसार, लेकिन कुल मिलाकर उसके पास पैसा ज़्यादा है ताकि वो काम काज में उसको कहीं दिक्कत ना आए।
I've come to the last two of today's announcements. One relate to the real estate, which is what I'm doing now. The next has direct taxation related reliefs, which has 3 different aspects. So the last two, one is on the real estate and the next is on the taxation. In the real estate matter, the Urban Development Ministry shall issue advisory to the states and the union territories so that the regulatory authorities are given clear picture that they can treat the COVID-19 period as an event where you can invoke the force measure. In other words, they can treat it as an act of God, and to that extent be flexible about the execution of the contract signed. This will also mean that with the necessary changes, they will have to issue fresh project registration certificates. They can extend the registration and the completion dates. Suo motu, they can do it by 6 months for all registered projects, expiring on or before 25th March 2020. So using the force measure clause, they can suo motu extend the registration and completion date by 6 months if the project was registered on or after 25th March 2020. So there need not be individual applications separately for it. They can suo motu do it. They can also issue fresh project registration certificates automatically with revised timelines. So this way, people who had entered into a contract and got fixed because of the coronavirus will not suffer. These measures, we think, will de-stress developers, and real estate industry, which is already in difficulty, will benefit with the new timelines.
कोविड-19 का प्रभाव हमारे रियल एस्टेट प्रोजेक्ट्स पर भी पड़ा होगा, और इसके लिए ही मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन डेवलपमेंट ये राज्य की सरकारों को और यूटीज को एडवाइस भी करेगी कि उनकी जो रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज़ हैं वो एक प्रावधान करें कि जो रजिस्ट्रेशन और कंप्लीशन डेट है उसको सुओ मोटो 6 महीने तक आगे बढ़ा दिया जाए, और इसकी जो 25 मार्च तक जो एक्सपायरी डेट थी यानी कि उसको 6 महीने तक आगे बढ़ा दिया जाए, और इसमें कोई इंडिविजुअल एप्लीकेशंस मंगवाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। जो 25 मार्च तक थी उसको वैसे ही 6 महीने तक का आगे विस्तार कर दिया जाए, उसको आगे अवधि को आगे बढ़ा दिया जाए। रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज़ को भी यही अनुरोध किया गया है, और इसमें मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स के माध्यम से जाएगा कि 3 महीने तक पीरियड उसको भी आगे बढ़ा दिया जाए, और जो फ्रेश प्रोजेक्ट रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट्स हैं वो भी रिवाइज टाइमलाइंस के साथ दे दिए जाएं। तो इसी तरह से रेरा के अंतर्गत जो टाइमलाइंस है उसको आगे बढ़ाने की जो बात कही गई है इसमें विस्तार में कही गई।
I move over to talking about the tax-related proposals, which is my last. You're fairly familiar with the TDS and the TCS tax deductions which happen. We have now, from, let us say, tomorrow till 31st March 2021, reduced the TDS rates and the TCS rates by 25% of the existing rate. So if the existing rate is 100, it will be reduced by 25%. This shall apply to all payments, if they are payment for contracts or professional fees or interest or rent or dividend or commission or brokerage. All of these will be eligible for this 25% rate reduction. Through this, and as I said, this will be coming into force from tomorrow and last till March 31st, 2021. And this reduction we think will release nearly 50,000 crores in the hands of the people who otherwise is going to give 50,000. It will be in their hands rather than coming in.
पे दूंगा उसमें 25% की कटौती की गई है, तो एक बहुत बड़ी राहत गैर वेतनभोगी इन सबके लिए नॉन सैलरीड पेमेंट टू रेजिडेंट्स इनके लिए की गई है.
The next is a set of dates which are getting extended for direct tax, some of the measures that we are taking. All pending refunds to charitable trusts and non-corporate businesses and professions, including that of proprietorship, partnership, LLP and cooperatives shall be issued immediately. I did mention that 5 lakhs waited for their refund for a long time, and through that nearly 14 lakh people had benefited. Now we are saying that the pending refunds of all charitable trusts, non-corporate businesses, professions, proprietorships, partnerships, LLPs and cooperatives, many of whom can be very small. Many of these are in cooperative sectors, many are MSMEs, many are small partnerships. All their refunds will be given immediately, which will mean that they will get their due money, that's their money, they will get it back in their hands without any delay. Then the due date of all income tax returns for the year 2019-2020 are now being extended from 31st July 2020 and 31st October 2020 to 30th November 2020, and tax on 31st October 2020. Will they be able to file their returns or taken cognizance of it? 31st it can wait till you launch this Vivad Se Vishwas scheme for making payment, and there was a component that you had to pay 10% extra if it is beyond a certain date. Now without any additional amount which is to be paid, in total the whole Vivad Se Vishwas scheme is getting extended up to 31st December 2020. And for this extension no extra payment is being asked. So the